As a long-time Lumix user, I thought I could walk right up to this camera and have it all figured out. But it looks like I will need to crack open the manual, at least to figure out all the new focus features. And this new menu system is packed with settings. My advice has always been just read the parts you need. Go to the front of the manual, find out what all the buttons are for. If you don't know how to use that button, well, that's the part you look up. And you only do it when you need it, otherwise you're going to get overwhelmed. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I'm out here with the Lumix G9 Mark II. I'm out here in the bird sanctuary, and as you probably know, I am a birder, so I wanted to test out the new subject detection settings and test out the phase detect autofocus, which is new for the Lumix G9 Mark II. Now, a camera manual is not going to teach you much about photography, and it barely teaches you how to use the camera. But I'm thinking if you've got this camera, this isn't your first rodeo. You already know a lot about Lumix cameras and photography. All right, let's look at the top of the camera quickly. You can set up your white balance using this button. Your ISO is here, and your exposure compensation, of course. And we have our exposure mode dial. And on this side, we have the drive mode dial, and we're going to talk a bit about that later. That has to do with your burst modes and things like that. And this little dial here has to do with your single shot, continuous, or manual focus modes. So it's got a sort of a lever on the front of it. And of course, here you've got your front dial and your rear dial. Easily accessible and quite a good sizable grip too. Okay, on the back of the camera we have a joystick, and that helps us move our focus point, and this is where you choose your focus mode. We'll go more on that later. This is like a back button focus button. Of course you can program it to anything, and we have the rear dial, we have our menu set button, and the quick menu, which I will show you more about that later in this video as well. Changing the display. This is in the picture taking mode. If you're in playback mode and you press display, you can get into, the more of the details of the photo that you took. Of course, this is the rear dial, which has like a little joystick on it, as well as a wheel that you can turn. So for example, let's say I want to change my ISO. I push the ISO button on the top of the camera and I can manually change the ISO that way. Exposure compensation, same thing. Add or remove light. White balance, same thing there. So that's the rear dial. Okay, let's get into the menu system. Menu set. And here's the basic photography menus here. And you can see that with the G9 Mark II, it has 2 levels of settings to go through. So in the old version, you just had one setting with a lot more pages. So we go across and you can see that this is the image quality stuff. So you can choose your photo style, metering mode, aspect ratio, picture quality, picture size. Of course, with any camera, you can choose your megapixel size here. So this is again another change with the G9, is that you now have a 25 megapixel sensor, and you just hit the back button to go back to the main menu. And of course, those are the basic ones that I would set up with any camera. And in page 2, you have more image quality settings. I sometimes use iDynamic. You can dig into those yourself. This is just a quick preview video. Next on the list is our focus settings. Here's what I have set up. I have my subject detection set up, and in that menu, you can go into human, animal, car, motorcycle. I have it on animal, and you can target the animal parts. So you can go eye, body, or just body. So if you have a bunch of animals in your scene, you definitely just want to put it on the body one. And if you just have one animal or bird, you have put it on this eye body setting. When you're using the single eye body setting in the autofocus, it will target the eye or the body or both by drawing a square around it. And this works really good with the new phase detect autofocus. Burst shot is something I definitely want to look up though. The burst mode settings start at page 212 in the PDF owner's manual, and you can see that there are many combinations that you can use, but for high-speed burst frame, single shot, AFS, or manual focus, you can get 14 frames a second with the mechanical and the electronic shutters. When I'm using continuous focus, AFC, it is either 10 frames a second for the mechanical or 9 frames for the electronic shutter. For most of my birding, that is enough speed. But of course, you also have your pre-burst. Now, setting it to a super high burst, whether it's pre-burst or normal burst setting, gets a bit unwieldy because you have to deal with all of the photos that you take in those settings. So using the high speed bursts, you can have 20 frames a second, 60 or 75, and those work with the pre-burst as well. Even at 20 frames a second, you have a lot of images you have to deal with and delete. So I would use these sparingly. I do have a video coming up which will show more about the burst settings and the kind of photos you can take with them. So that's sort of like the basics of the camera. If you want all the details, of course, look it up in the manual. Enough of the tech talk. Have a look at the photos I shot on my first day using the Lumix G9 Mark II. And lastly, I'm going to set up the quick menu because I'm a huge fan of the quick menu, especially for my Lumix cameras. Now, the quick menu is where you put all your favorite settings that you change often. So in my case, it might be the burst modes or whether I'm going to use eye dynamic, and of course, the focus settings that you want to get into quickly. The quick menu on the G9 is one of my favorite features. I love that the quick menu button is quite large, and all you have to do is press it, and it shows you your most favorite settings. So in this case, I have it on photo style, and I can change the photo styles either by tapping the screen itself or by rotating through the control dial on the back of the camera. So I can change different photo styles. To change to another menu on the quick menu, you can use the joystick, or you can use the control dial wheel at the back, and you can just navigate through. So you can see some of my favorites, obviously white balance, ISO, shutter type, picture quality, eye dynamic, and the focus area. So this is definitely something that I'm going to change right now. There we go, we changed the focus mode. And of course, we have our subject detection settings, which I use a lot. It's so nice just to be able to change them quickly. So I go to it and I hit it, and I can change the type of subject I want, instead of going through all those menus like I demonstrated before. You can hit the back button right here, and you can turn the subject detection on and off quickly as well if you put it in the quick menu. So right now it's off. If I'm looking through the viewfinder, I don't even have to take my eye out of here. Once I hit that quick menu, I can feel it because it's raised, and then I just scroll on and off with my subject detection. Here's another one, autofocus mode, and this is one I use a lot as well. And again, you can change through the control dial at the back without having to take your eye out of the viewfinder. I love the quick menu. Let me show you how to set it up. Quick menu customization starts on page 545 in the owner's manual. First thing we do, we have to go into the menus. All right, here's how to get into the quick menu. You go into your settings, you go across, third one down, operations, right at the top, Q menu settings. Click that, and you have two different layout styles, mode 1 and mode 2. I preferred mode 1. So I want to do the photo items. First thing you do is change the position. So I'm going to do spot number 12. And then I go through all the menus and I think, what do I want on spot number 12? So I can go through and let's just say I want to put my drive mode settings in there. So I go into drive mode settings and now drive mode setting is in spot 12. And I go back into the quick menu and you can see that my drive mode is set up here. Of course, I had already set it up in that position. I'm going to go back in to my menu and put it back to what I had. Customize my settings. So I'm going to go down to spot number 12 and I think I'm going to put it onto spot number 12. I think I'm going to go into flash mode. So I'm going to leave it like that, but you can see what I've chosen for my quick menus. And if you want to change any of them, you just go back into the spot. So let's say I don't want to have this one here, shutter type. So that was like my shutter type, electronic or mechanical shutter. Let's say I want to put image stabilization in that spot instead. And so now when I go to my quick menu, I can hit that and change my image stabilization via the rear dial. So that's all it is to set up the quick menu, and I highly recommend that you do that for your Lumix camera, no matter what kind of Lumix camera you have. Well, I'm pleased to say, after using the Lumix G9 Mark II for a couple of hours, feels like home. See you next time.